What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with Tesla moving forward as we saw the deliveries come out, what I think is going to pan out in the future looking at this new trend. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going right now, we're on a downtrend because Tesla had this high at this 490 area. And since then, Tesla's been making lower highs and continuing to fall. Now, deliveries came out. Unfortunately, Tesla's got this very, very big sell off. They're down 6% after they came out. And Tesla saw a loss in their overall sales compared to what we saw from last year. So, is this the end of the world? What do I think is going to happen from this point on? The answer is no, guys. It's not the end of the world. Do not panic and do not worry. Okay. Mainstream media is screaming all over the place. Tesla missed on deliveries. BYD is outselling them, this and that. And honestly, guys, I'm not really too worried about this. Okay. Tesla's long term is going to be completely fine. Tesla's going to make a very, very strong comeback. So always remember that and remain very, very calm no matter what. We're going to be completely fine. Now, what happened with their sales? Were they bad? Were they good? What is my view of that? Honestly, guys, they weren't too bad, actually. 495,000 is not bad for the fourth quarter because that is a new record in quarterly sales for Tesla. They almost got to the 500,000 mark. The problem was that in order for them to achieve growth compared to what we saw in 2023, okay, Tesla had to do over 1.81 million in deliveries. Instead, we only got about 1.79 million. So we were down by 1.1% in 2024 compared to 2023. To get those sales up, they needed around 515,000 deliveries. Wall Street was expecting 506,000, but we got 495,000 instead. That's why the share price came down. That's why we saw Tesla respond the way it did. I went over more details about their numbers in my previous videos, so I'm not going to go over everything right now. But I just want to say that, we got this big sell-off as a result of this. I mentioned in my video from yesterday or the day before that if Tesla crushed it with deliveries, we were expecting a big bounce back up to 430 plus. If Tesla did very, very poorly, we were expecting about 380 at the very least, if not lower. And as you guys can see, Tesla ended up losing that support. So we called out the move very, very nicely. So the question is, what's going to happen from this point on? What is Tesla going to do? Well, historically, just know that we are seeing some shifts that tend to happen towards the very beginning of the year, especially in the markets. Truist Securities gave Tesla a hold rating. They're saying just hold on to your Tesla shares through all of this. Then the price-price ratio is dipping for Tesla because Tesla's losing some strength compared to the markets. And then when it comes to volatility, look at more volatility at 10 a.m. and then also at 1 p.m. and then 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We tend to see more green only about 49% of the time on Fridays. And then there's not anything else that's too crazy that's coming out in terms of the news. Now, there was this news right here. We have about 108 million in volume. That is above average, which is not bad whatsoever. So volume is still high, and I'm hoping that this works not just against Tesla, but could also help Tesla to some extent. If we do see some buyers trying to defend tomorrow, that could help us to some extent. But then don't forget, simultaneously, there's still a lot of high selling volume that could also hurt Tesla. So it goes both ways, having high volume. Now, as far as Tesla's going, we are weak and we are technically on a downtrend. But with this wick forming here and the fact that we're at support at this 375 area, which is where buyers are defending it, there's been other instances where Tesla bounced off that 375 zone, such as like right over here when Tesla hits 376 before it tried to rebound. So I think that there will be a rebound attempt tomorrow morning, especially since it's a Friday and Tesla's known for doing this on the morning periods. But because of the downtrend, because we're making lower highs, the move might not last and Tesla could turn right back down. So that's going to be the most likely possibility unless we manage to break resistance. I'll talk about which resistance in just a minute. For the whole market, just know that Nvda was rebounding quite well, so was Meta, but then the other stocks were quite flat with some red for Apple. And then Tesla, of all things, was more in the red because of their overall deliveries. Now, going into tomorrow, just know that tomorrow is going to be Friday, January 3rd, 2025. And by the way, guys, hope you guys had a very happy new year. The year has started, and now this is a great time for us to improve. But tomorrow is going to be the first Friday of 2025. At 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're expecting the ISM Manufacturing PMI Employment New Orders and Prices data. This is 30 minutes after the stock market opens, so we'll see what this ends up leading to. So we'll see what happens with all of this coming out. This may cause some high volatility in the mornings, 30 minutes after market open, and we'll see what happens. Also, just know that when it comes to earnings, there's nothing significant coming out for tomorrow. It's going to be very, very quiet. And then for the market as a whole, we're very fearful right now. We're near the extremes. So we'll see if this leads to a small bounce to start things off. And then if that ends up failing, so watch that very closely. Momentum is also at extreme fear as the S&P 500 is approaching the 125 daily moving average, which is showing some weakness. The put to call option ratio is at fear. We're starting to see this going up a bit. So there's still fear building and shorts are starting to pile in more. And then volatility is at neutral as the VIX is starting to push towards 18. Besides that, one more thing is we have a very interesting options chain. Tomorrow we have 282,000 calls expiring, and we have over 260,000 puts expiring. We have a 0.93 put to call ratio. For one of the first times in a long time, we have more puts than calls expiring on a Friday. I'm sorry, we have more calls than puts expiring on a Friday. Hopefully I said that right. So there's more calls than puts expiring as of right now. As a market maker, I would want to screw over both sides if I were to, play this. So I might cause a little bit of a pump to start things off, and then maybe things might not last, leading to a dump. So we'll see about that. So in my view, here's what I think is going to happen for Tesla. We have this support around this 375 area. If that fails us, okay, and I actually marked these levels in my earlier video, but if 375 fails us, right, we're going to be dumping all the way down to 363 near this 200 EMA down here. So watch 370 then 363 as our main supports. 363 is very significant because this is where we had the cup and handle breakout. So if I go all the way back on the chart like this, you guys could see right over here back in November of last year, we had this cup and handle around this resistance near there. That's very close to where our 200 EMA happens to be. So this was a very important resistance, which Tesla broke out from. It's now going to be a very, very key support. On top of this, we haven't really tested our 200 EMA yet on the 4-hour time frame, which makes me suspect there could be more downside coming. Before that happens, I suspect that we're going to see a little bit of upside. Tesla's going to likely test 386 or very close to that. If we break that, we're looking for the low 390s, especially like 390 and 393. So look for a push for 386 and 390 or so, a little rebound attempt. But then there's no guarantee the move is going to last once we hit our key fib level. So if you look at this from a Fibonacci retracement standpoint, let me just close these out real quick. You'll see that if we take this just like this is like right over here. From where this like rejection ended up coming from, I would be looking at essentially this pocket right over here, very close to our 0.382 fib level. That could lead to where this downside move happens to be. So very close to the very low 390s could be coming. There might be a small rebound for 388 to 390, and then we could start rejecting after that to continue to fall. So just keep that in mind, guys. That's going to be very key for how things end up developing. So on Tesla, expect a small rebound in the morning. I also say that because of historical data right here. So if you look at the way the trend is, if you look at what happened on Thursday, we pumped and dumped. Friday, we pushed a bit, then we dumped. On Monday, we saw Tesla trade flat. On Tuesday, we pumped and dumped. And then going into Thursday, we started off high, and then we just dumped from there after deliveries came out. So we like to start the mornings very, very high. We like to push in the mornings as volume comes in, especially because volume is going up for Tesla. So I think there's going to be a surge in volume, and Tesla's going to attempt to go up to about 388 to 390 for a small rebound. But then the move might not last, and Tesla could reject in the low 390s, if not the high 380s, and then make a move right back down towards 375, if not 363. So look for a push, then maybe a rejection is the most likely possibility as we're technically on a downtrend, and then we'll have to see what happens. For SPY also has a head and shoulders like pattern. There's a left shoulder here, there's a head, and then there's a right shoulder. So we'll just have to see what this leads to. However, when you look at SPY on the 4-hour, we do have this big wick that's developing right here. This could lead to like an opposite reaction, taking us up to about that 587 to 588 area. I suspect we're going to be pushing for 588 or so. And then if we can't get back above 590, what's going to happen is we push a little bit higher towards the high 580s, then we could reject and make a move right back down towards 583. So please keep that in mind, guys. SPY is technically on a downtrend. We have a much larger head and shoulders. But because of this wick here, I do suspect there's going to be a rebound attempt tomorrow morning to try to get back up towards that 580. First off, we have 588, then maybe even like 590 to be retested. But then if we don't break past 591.5, we're not going to continue this pump. We're just going to push a little bit, then reject. And that's the most likely case for now looking at the trend. So look for an attempt to rebound tomorrow morning for 588 or so. Then we could reject and start dipping lower and start retesting the low 580s all over again. If 580 flat fails us, we're looking for 577. I suspect some upside is going to be the most likely possibility than a rejection as the most likely case. ES is also starting to push already. So you guys can see there are buyers trying to defend it once we hit this support around 5880. There's a left shoulder here, there's a head, and then there's a right shoulder. I suspect we could be pushing higher for an attempt to get back up towards 58 or 59.50. Then we have 59.65 above that. I think we might be pushing a little bit higher than we could reject and start dipping lower, back down towards 5900 flat. So look for an attempt to get back up to 59.50 as the most likely possibility. And then we could be dipping after that to start coming back down to the lower 5900s. So look for a push for 59.50 to 59.65. If we break that, we push it even higher. But I suspect we might push here, then maybe slow down as time goes on because of this trend. We need to break above 59.65 to turn a little bit more bullish, and even 6,000 would turn us more bullish. But I suspect it might not happen that way. We might push a little bit, then reject because of the current trend. For Nvidia, we look a little bit promising compared to the market because we're forming an inverse head and shoulders here. There's left shoulder, head, maybe a right shoulder possibly forming. I think that this might make an attempt to push. We might grab a little liquidity around 136 to start things off and try to push. As long as we hold 136, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 140. And if that breaks, we're looking for 142. I suspect a dip and a bounce for 140 is most likely coming. If we lose 136, though, we're going to be dumping back down to 134. But I don't favor that. I favor that 140 is going to be likely tested. And if that breaks, we push even higher from here. The 4-hour looks more bullish. I think we look stronger, at least looking at the trend. So we're favoring a dip and a bounce on Nvidia. So let's see if 136 holds. Hopefully it holds. As long as it holds, we could be attempting to get back up to 140. If not, this will be kind of like testing these EMAs around 136.8, then we will be dipping after that. I don't favor that's going to happen. I think we might dip here and then try to rebound. So there might be some life coming to the markets thanks to that. Bitcoin's going to likely retest its EMAs. Looking at the 4-hour, we might be on our way back down towards 95,750, and if not 95,200, and then we could just try to bounce after that. So look for a small dip before we see some rebound attempts. So watch that very closely. For others out there, we have NQ. It's trying to rebound right here. I think this might attempt to get back up to about 21,250. Might try to push a little bit higher. And then if we break that, we're looking for a bigger push for 21,300 plus. However, there is a downtrend. We had a high here, came down, we had a lower high, came down, we had a lower high, came down. So it might attempt to push and then reject. So watch that very closely. If we lose 21,000, we turn more bearish. I don't favor that. I think we push a little bit first before that move ends up coming. If we can't break past our 200 EMA, this is where the resistance happens to be. This may slow us down. So I suspect it might push a bit right here towards our 200 EMA or our 20 EMA right here, the green line, and then it might kind of turn back down after that. For the QQQ, we're on a downtrend. A high here came down, and a lower high came down. We're trying to hold 511 as our 200 EMA. If we hold this, we're looking for a rebound towards the 515 area. That's very close to our 20 EMA. If we hit this, we could reject and start tipping back down to 511 or below. If we break this, we could be pushing even higher. Look for a rebound for 515. If that rejects, we're going to be dipping back down to 511 or below. So watch to see if that ends up being the case. I think we rebound tomorrow morning. Look for a test of 515 on the QQQ. If we can't hold above that, we're going to likely be dipping back down. So just watch that closely for an attempt to rebound just to start things off. Apple looks a bit more bearish. We're on a bit of a downtrend. We could attempt to test 246 or so, but then if we can't hold above that, it might just come straight back down towards 244 and then 242. So look for a small push to the 245s, just under 246. Then we could reject and come back down since we have a big red bar and eventually test 240.72, which is our 200 EMA. Some stocks like NEO had some good deliveries, so this is looking a little promising. We need to hold 4.5. As long as that holds, we're looking for 4.8. If that breaks, we turn even more bullish. If we lose 4.5, we turn back down, so we'll see if that ends up being the case, but there's potential in the chart. Netflix is bearish. We're making lower highs here. We're technically on a downtrend, at least for the shorter term, and I do want to say we're approaching the support right here around this 880 area, so we're doing a good job. This might rebound for essentially 894, then we could reject and start dipping lower for 880. So watch that very closely after a rebound attempt. For MSTR, MicroStrategy, we're on a downtrend right now, okay? We are technically making lower highs. We could attempt to retest 315. We'll have to see if we reject or not, but look for a push for 315 to 326, and then we'll see if we reject off this to come back down. So look for a push for 315, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For Celsius, we have resistance at 27.5. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards not only 28, but essentially this 29 area. If we lose support right here around 26.85, we could be dipping. I favor 27.5 to 28, and then maybe we'll have to see how it reacts, but this looks a little bit more bullish to me. So I might try to push for 28 or so, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get, but it does look a little bit more bullish. Supermicro is looking a little bit weaker. We're trying to base at 30. We have to hold that. Otherwise, we favor a move back down to about the 29 flat area. This has like a head and shoulders, so it looks a bit more bearish, so 30 may fail for us, unfortunately. Palantir looks promising. This could be forming kind of like maybe a cup and handle. But I think that at the very least, let's look for a test of 77. I think we push a bit higher for 77. Then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. So look for that attempt to rebound, and we'll see if we get a break or not. And then we'll see what the reaction is off 77 if we break it. For Rivian, there's a left shoulder here, there's a head, and then there's a right shoulder. We'll have to see if we can hold above 13.62. Otherwise, we favor a move to the downside. I think this is favoring 13 flat or below, so guess and see how it ends up going from there. If 13 fails us, we turn bearish. I think that looks a little weaker. So far, it's a little bit weaker. We dipped quite a bit, but we have to try to hold above 14.14. If that holds, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 14.5, and then it could still reject afterwards and start dumping towards the 13s. But for now, I think there might be a small rebound. After we got quite a bit of downside here, we could be looking for 14.5 before it starts dipping again. For the Russell, this looks not too great. My problem is there's a left shoulder ahead, and then there's a right shoulder. We need to hold above 222, otherwise we favor a move back down to 220, if not 218. So with that in shoulders, we could be dipping to about the lower levels, such as like 218 or so give it the time it needs. For AIM2, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We could be pushing higher for 122, and we'll see if we reject or not. So look for a push for 122, and we'll see what the reaction we get. For ARM, as long as we're above 127.75, we're looking for 131.5. This could be trying to push back up for 132, and we'll see if we reject or not. So look for some upside for 130, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For coin, if we break past 261.5, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to about 266. If it rejects you, we turn back down, but I favor 261.5, then eventually 265 as our potential targets. It has some upside potential. Amazon's range bound. The problem with Amazon is that we are getting bought back up around 218, but we tend to reject off 224. So look for an attempt to get back up to 222 to 223.5. We could push here, then reject and come back down to 220. I see a lot of sideways price action, so look for some upside, then the reaction. For Meta, we have 600 as our main support. We'll see if the 50 EMA holds or not. As long as we're above 600, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 605. If we lose 600, we're looking for 596 as our support, followed by lower levels. Looking at the 4-hour, we look a bit more bullish, so we favor 605, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For Microsoft, we look like we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're making lower highs technically. But there's a wick forming here, so this might attempt to push for 422. And if that breaks, we're looking for 424. So look for 422 to 424. Then if we reject here, we dip back down. For now, we do look like we could attempt a rebound. For Google, we have a left shoulder ahead and then a right shoulder. I do think it's going to try to retest these EMAs. It's very flat right now, not really doing much. So it's not too fun to trade this. We're looking for an attempt of 192 to 192.6, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get from there. GameStop looks a little bit more bearish. We're looking for 30 flats to be tested. AMC looks a bit more bullish. As long as we're above 4.01, I look for 4.12 as our target. DJT is looking a little bit weaker. We have a left shoulder ahead and then a right shoulder. This could be favoring a move back down towards, all the way down to the 33s if that fails. The VIX looks so-so. It might dip back down to 17.21, but then we'll see if we get some kind of bounce off of that, which suggests that the market may see some kind of upside move in the morning tomorrow, but then there's no guarantee it's going to last, as the VIX could still bounce. The 10-year is waiting for more data from the Fed and also inflation to make a big move, and the dollar is going to dip here. So I think that the dollar may dip a bit because the market's going to rebound just a little bit. We might see SPY, the QQQ, and even Tesla try to push in the morning. But then as time goes on, the dollar has this gap to fill. So it might dip and then try to bounce off 109, which suggests that the market may have more downside later on. So as far as Tesla goes, we're bearish. We're on a downtrend. We may start off with a nice pump going into tomorrow, very close to 388 to 390. However, there's no guarantee the move is going to last because we're on a downtrend and deliveries were not the best for Tesla. I still want to say they did well in a way where they broke their previous records, but it wasn't really enough to impress Wall Street. So, of course, guys, be prepared for downside just to be safe in the future. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Look for a rebound attempts tomorrow morning, and we'll see if it lasts or not. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with another update for you guys. Thank you for listening. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good night, and peace out.